time is everybody's apology to Guardsy's favorite football conference, the Big Ten. They get it done again last night as a conference. More specifically, of course, the Ohio State Buckeyes. There's a stretch in the game where people are going, why do we even bother? Why do we even bother playing these games? Notre Dame suddenly made it a little bit interesting. A lot of discussion about the decision to try to kick the field goal rather than go for it. Was it 4th and 2?
No, it was like 4th and 9.
Oh, it was that much? Okay.
Yeah.
In any case, they cut it to a one-score game, right? And then Ohio State is able to pull away again and win. The stat I saw was that the last 2 championship seasons, the Big Ten is 8-2 with 6 double-figure wins and 2 national titles, which ain't bad, right?
Back-to-back Big Ten titles for the first time, I think, since Michigan State in the 60s.
I don't think Connor Stallions had anything to do with at least the second one.
Not this one.
Maybe the first one, but who is indeed to say? I have to admit, when the game got out of control, I kind of fell asleep, and then I woke up, and it was a ball game again, and then it wasn't. Because let's face it, in the middle of the game, it did kind of look like, ooh, man, this could get really out of hand, right? I mean, it kind of did, and then until it didn't, right? It was weird. It was the way Notre Dame then kind of found a way to sort of get back into the ball game. And I hope this will shut up all those Ryan Day critics who almost died after the game. Did you see that video?
Yes.
It's too good. And you can laugh about it because nobody did get hurt. But he's going to be delivered back to the locker room, I believe, with some players on a golf cart.
Yep.
Back in the bowels of the stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, correct?
Yes.
And the person driving the cart clearly had a judgment issue about how much she was going to have to turn the wheels to avoid the wall, and didn't quite turn the wheels far enough, and they end up bashing into the wall. It was bizarre. And no one was hurt, as I said, fortunately, but it was very strange. The video is very comical.
Well, Will Howard was on McAfee today, the quarterback, who played awesome, by the way.
Yes, he did.
Quarterback Will Howard, who's kind of an afterthought on that team because they have so much talent. He was tremendous. He said that the woman in question, he said he felt bad for her because she did an unbelievable job getting them off the field in the cart.
Right.
She's weaving through, getting people out of the way, honking. And then at that moment of truth, completely melted down.
Yeah.
He did say he thought Ryan Day might have had a neck issue after the whole thing.
Lawsuit. Maybe he was in the front seat, right?
He was. Yeah. He was riding shotgun.
Yeah.
And, luckily, it seemed like everybody walked away from it, but it was good video.
Well, it looked like then the wheel was it was turned so far in that it was wacky. It was very funny stuff. By the way, let me be the first to say, if you haven't thought it, that would not have happened in Indianapolis.
No, they know how to run it.
They know how to drive the golf carts on the field.
Yep.
They would have navigated those minefields fine.
No problem.
And in the back area where you're just trying to get the players and the coach back to the locker room. That's never happened in Indianapolis before. In Atlanta, there it was.
They've got like a mid-pass line.
Somebody should send Saban the video because apparently he's become the big Atlanta does it so much better than any place else guy. Or at least better than Indianapolis. He must have been haughty because he's been on the how dare you ever... if you're a Gopher or a Buckeye fan, ever rip Ryan Day. You know what I think part of Ryan Day's problem is, and this is not his fault because he's a human being, and you kind of are what you are.
Yep.
How do I put this? He doesn't show much of his joy. You know what I'm saying? Now he did a couple times in the field.
You think
I guess
so? He runs after plays. I think he shows a little.
Not overall. I wouldn't classify him as a man with great charisma, which, again,
that's probably true.
Doesn't mean that he can't be a successful coach, and there are a lot of coaches in that category. But we've talked over the years about how, the skill, the art of letting everybody in on the fun. Not sure that that's something he seems tight. Now, maybe this will loosen him up. He just won a national championship.
It should.
And if this doesn't loosen him up, probably nothing will. Other than I guess he'll say right away, well, they're gonna be down. They're gonna want me fired if I don't win it 2 years in a row.
Yeah, or he's got to beat Michigan next year to not make it 5 in a row.
Very, very true.
Because they have lost 4 in a row.
That could be it as well.
Yeah, Ohio State was fun to watch in this playoff stretch. They essentially crushed everybody.
Well, yeah, and the thing, and I have to say, if you go back to that Michigan game, I'm going, What's going on?
People are going to study that one.
How is that? How did this happen? Now, Michigan, I think what we're learning in part is Michigan was a pretty damn good team by the end of the year, especially defensively. And they showed it, quite frankly, right down the stretch. But the fact that Ohio State was having difficulty, so it's just offensive, or their own defense, they looked like a team that was not very well coached in that game, quite frankly. They just did.
And tight,
yes. Playing almost to that personality where if something bad can happen, it will. Did Holtz... Did Day have a moment with Lou Holtz? Because that's been an ongoing.
Yeah, I didn't see that. He had a moment pregame with the fake Lou Holtz that one of the ESPN guys was doing as an impersonation. Holtz was in a suite, I think. I think Holtz is going through some health stuff, so he was in a suite the whole time.
Definitely.
But how about the cojones? They on that last drive when Notre Dame did make it interesting, and it's 3rd and 11 because they'd basically run the quarterback twice. And you're going, oh, man, I know Jim Tressel's in the building, the former Ohio State coach, but is this going to be the ultimate homage to Tressel ball that PJ loves as well? Are they just going to run it a third time, run the clock and punt, and then just hope the defense? And nope, bomb, 3rd and 11 to the best player on the field. Great
Fairly
throw.
Ballsy. Yeah.
Great catch. And obviously, because of the blitz and because of the one-on-one coverage, it's probably more than a 50-50 ball, but that's pretty ballsy is the word for it, to say we're not turtling.
Yeah.
We're going for it. Come and stop us.
Yeah.
And they didn't. That's a hell of a way to end the game.
And that pretty much, won the ball game. There's no question about that. My wife's favorite thing about OSU winning was seeing the black shoe polish Ryan Day uses on his beard get washed away by the Gatorade dump. Is that true?
I didn't notice.
That's not something,
people are amazing.
I did not notice amazing. That. And observant, I guess it would be observant. I did not notice that. Does he dye his beard?
Well, there are a lot of allegations.
Some people do that.
Yeah, Gene Katie, people allege he did it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question.
A lot of coaches alleged Coach K.
It's hard to tell what the color was that Katie was using.
I know.
I don't even think it was a natural color at all, but he did.
A lot of people allege, some of my coaching friends, good for me, allege that Coach K used a little shoe polish from time to time.
Did you, by the way, did you think, I tried to get Richard Pitino going via Twitter. Did you see it?
Oh, I saw it, yeah.
So, do you think Pitino was indeed trying to get people here going at all? He apparently, the last 4 or 5 pieces of audio I've seen and video of Richard Pitino, the Lobos, the University of New Mexico head men's basketball coach, has put out, have all been related to his sucking up to the fans. The atmosphere in what do they call it? The pit?
The pit.
It's pretty amazing, and that he's saluting it. We appreciate it. You have no idea how much it helps us. Blah 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 blah. And the latest one was basically saying, "Look, man, we know this is different. There's a lot of places where it ain't like this at all." So me, of course, being the jacko I am, linked to that video, and I said, "Shot at the barn atmosphere." And
the next question. This is high-level competitive.
Pitino did the sarcastic never with what emoji is that?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not looking.
Check the emoji because I'm not good at translating the emojis, but I think that emoji means, hell yes, that's exactly what I was trying to do. Just try to get people going back here at his previous location. But some people will be able to tell. It's a smile emoji, but it's not a smile emoji. It's an emoji to me that says something a little bit different. Is that considered the sarcasm emoji?
No, I don't think so. That's just a straight
you think it's
smile.
Just a straight smile?
But I do think it might be a mischievous smile.
Yeah, maybe that's what we're that's a good word for it. That might be the word that I'm looking for.
To answer your question on Richard saying this about the crowd,
yeah.
I don't think he's bringing it up specifically to take a shot at the Williams Arena crowds or atmosphere or go for fan base.
But he doesn't mind it.
But I don't think he minds it if people take it that way.
Yeah, that's what
that's how I would interpret it.
I tend to think that's usually the case with him. It's not like from the start, that was the deal, but he never minds if indeed there might be a little bit of a jab thrown in there as well. Has he seen us lately? We just knocked off previously undefeated Michigan.
Got the Hawkeyes tonight in Iowa City.
Knock off on previously undefeated Michigan.
I don't know if they were previously undefeated, but he beat them a couple of times. He beat them when they were 3 in the country.
He did?
I do remember that, yeah.
Court storming? Was it here?
I don't know if we stormed the court or not.
I want to follow up. Let's go long today. Let's mix up the clock a little bit.
Did you see the other video Patino made over the weekend where he did like the selfie video after
Yes.
another late night crowd?
Yes.
And it was just classic him going like, I don't like doing this.
Yes.
I feel like a raving lunatic.
You're correct.
But you guys were really good last
Yeah,
night.
I did see that.
It was like 10,000 people at 8:30 at night or something.
What was he? I thought he was rumored. Wasn't he going to go somewhere back? Wasn't there an opening in Florida again?
Miami.
Was it Miami? Is it still open?
Yeah, because their coach, Jim Larinaga, retired a couple
Well, you
of weeks
talk
ago.
to him every week, so is he going to Miami?
He doesn't tell me that kind of stuff.
I would think that would be, you'd have to take that job if it came available. I don't know if they're looking at him.
He didn't even tell me when I was getting rumblings from the coaching community
Yes.
that New Mexico was a wrap, that he was going to go there. He got mad at me when I asked him about that.
Ooh, really?
And then like 8 minutes later, he was the head coach, and so I had to fire back at him and go, you're a jackass.
Are you familiar with Alec Lewis?
I am.
Covers the Vikings and the National Football League.
Does a great job.
I believe it's called The Athletic.
The Athletic. We have you and I both have multiple subscriptions to the Athletic.
Yes, we do.
Somehow.
I think I'm paying like $350 a year for The Athletic. I'm
For now.
serious.
It's about to jump up.
It's probably about to
Your
jump up.
latest
Yeah, I
promotional
can't-
rate's
'cause
about
you
to
can't,
go.
Once you get like an extra one, you can't. There's nobody to talk to.
No.
There's no way out of it.
Nope,
And
Johnny's no help.
He's acknowledged it.
Russo,
he almost
no
says
help.
It's purposeful.
Yeah.
Anyway, a couple of things he wrote dovetail perfectly with part of the end of our conversation with Kevin Seifert about the number of teams that have a bully ball mentality, even if they can do some other finessey things that are still in the tournament, the remaining 4 teams in the tournament. And I want to get your reaction to a couple of these observations from Lewis. This was he does a mailbag kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's responding to a question. Do you think the weakness in the Minnesota running game is due to scheme or personnel? And by the way, it can be more than just the running game, as Seifert said, but that's a big part of it. And some of it has to do with running game, including the quarterback as well. Here's what, first he did a chart, offered up a chart, did Lewis, on, efficiency numbers regarding the Vikings running game the past 3 seasons, okay, in a number of categories. Yards per carry, we did jump up with Aaron Jones from 27th to 16th, which is a big improvement, although still kind of middle of the pack, right? Something called success rate. I don't even know what the hell that means. We actually went down from 10th to 17th. Percentage of negative runs, middle of the pack, we're 17, better than a year ago, but still middle of the pack. Yards before contact, 15th. Yards after contact, 21st. None of those numbers particularly impressive. And Lewis writes, the Vikings have had 3 different starting running backs in the last 3 seasons, and they've used different guards. They signed blocking tight end Josh Oliver in 2023. Regardless, the ground game has been unreliable, to put it nicely. Peruse the numbers, and you'll find that the NFL's best run games tend to coincide with running quarterbacks. Other teams like the Lions, Niners, Bucks, Falcons, and Packers succeeded on the ground in 2024 thanks to solid offensive line play, electric running backs, and sound schemes. Minnesota's weakness stems from not having any of those 3. Any of those 3. Solid offensive line play, electric running backs, and sound schemes.
That's
Interesting
a problem.
accusation.
Yeah.
The Minnesota offensive line has struggled to push defenders vertically and move laterally. Aaron Jones clearly upgraded the running back position, but he is not the dynamo that Jahmyr Gibbs, Robinson, or Josh Jacobs are. And the Vikings' offensive design leaves something to be desired. Let me repeat. And the Vikings' offensive design leaves something to be desired. The offense used motion on run plays at one of the lowest rates in the league, while the Lions, Niners, Bucks, Falcons, and Packers all ranked in the top 10. There's also the question worth asking about overall commitment. Do the Vikings practice the run game enough? Does the staff allocate enough mental energy towards it? Is the collective brain power of the staff built to squeeze the most out of its personnel, even if that personnel, light receivers, a pass-catching tight end, etc., was not amassed to run the ball? These questions are not easy to answer without being inside the building, but it's hard not to lend credence to any of these being accurate given how consistent the struggles have been. And I'd say ding, ding, ding. I agree with a lot of what he has said. And you see it, you just watch these games. Watch the way the Eagles go about their business. Watch the way the Buffalo Bills go about their business, even with their quarterback, but not just him. I even heard PA talking about this, I think, a little in the week. There's there is a bully ball aspect, even in a modern passing game. And by the way, a lot of these teams can throw, clearly, right?
Yep.
Although Buffalo didn't throw this much in this particular game, Baltimore can throw, but there's a bully ball mentality there. And again, Seifert's right. I mean, some of this probably has to do with personnel, all the money that you've paid JJ, etc. But I'm just telling you, I think if you want to consistently give yourself a best chance to be a factor in the postseason, you have to find a way to introduce more of this element into what the Vikings, into the head coach's mentality and what they do. And if that means moving some pieces around and trading a couple players or changing some things in that regard, I think you got to do it, because in the end, I just don't think finesse is going to get there. Look at the Rams. The Rams were, when they won the bowl, they were kind of considered, once upon a time, I think, the ultimate finesse team, right? And they were offensively explosive. Well, they've kind of been remade, perhaps out of necessity, perhaps for other reasons. And they're a combo platter team. They hung with the Eagles, had a chance to win that game. Now, ultimately, because Stafford threw really well late, obviously, but they used the running game. They probably would have used it more if the field hadn't been such that their running back was fumbling it, whatever. But there is still, I think, even among the most modern, most sophisticated passing geniuses, an understanding that whether it's cyclical or whether it has to do with whatever the conditions are or whatever we're dealing with here, there has to be, at times, a toughness component to what we go about doing offensively. And I still don't think that's at the top of KOC's list. And if the comeback is because we don't have the right people, then I say you got to figure out a way to, I think, change the people, don't you?
Well, and maybe they accidentally stumble into it, because one of the things he talked about post-game was they have to figure out the interior of the line.
That's it.
And most of that was having to do with the pressure that Sam Darnold was under for the last 2 weeks of the season that made it very difficult for him to do anything. He was terrible. But if you have a couple of good guards or a center that are theoretically pretty good pass blockers, I'm guessing they're probably pretty good run blockers as well. So maybe they stumble.
Yeah.
And there's some guards on the market. I mean, people are already floating out names, including the guy from Philly who's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So there's a lot. I think there's going to be some options there to upgrade that. And you would hope that you would look at the teams that are still in it and the teams that were in it all season long and see even teams like Green Bay that said we need to, and it didn't end well for them, so they're not the greatest example, but why did they bring Jacobs into the mix? Because they wanted a little bit more physicality. Why did the Ravens go get Derrick Henry? Because they felt like they needed a little bit more physicality and an upgrade in the running game. All these, these good teams, even Kansas City through the years have been able to find decent running backs to give them that option. So it definitely, I think it got better at times. There were games where it started.
It was better at times.
And Aaron Jones looked outstanding and spry and loose. And Cam Akers, I thought, had a couple of nice moments as well. That was a good, solid pickup to bring him back into the mix. But then there were times where they didn't. They just went away from it for very long stretches for whatever the reason.
Yeah, I think it's, again, it's more than just my desire to have them run more, because they actually did run more this year. Now, the second part of the season, when they got the tight end back, Hawkinson, obviously, and the development of the wide receivers, including with Addison, you say, well, your strength is your passing game. You don't want to be stubborn about running for the sake of running. But I do think, I love the Jones acquisition. I would certainly consider bringing him back. But what did start to, I think, materialize was, even though he didn't miss as many games as he usually does, it felt like the hits he took tended to take a toll on him over the course of the game, and he wasn't quite the same guy by the end of the season.
Then he had the stretch where he had the brace that was making him fumble.
That's true.
In the middle of the season that happened to do with injury as well.
But I also think, again, some of it is your willingness to stay with it and to be creative. People always view that the only way you can be creative is how you throw. You can be creative in how you run and how you use running backs and how you use physicality in the running game. It doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be just sort of, straight ahead bully ball kind of a thing. There's a lot of ways to do it. And I still think it's the best friend of any quarterback, whether it's someone as accomplished as, Patrick Mahomes, or some that are on the come a little bit or maybe figuring it out, a la we thought, Sam Darnold, last year. That the example that we've used a lot is when Rodgers was still with Green Bay, they kind of took off later in his career when they stopped asking him to throw the ball 63 times a game. That even he, especially at that point in his career, needed that help to take the pressure off. So I hope it stays front and center in the discussion. And I just thought it was interesting, some of the stuff that when I hear other people who cover this team much more closely than I do, independently, maybe even not even knowing we've talked about this for a while, are asking some of the same questions, it makes me think, well, there's something here. There's something here to pay attention to and to, I think, grab onto and find out whether the head coach has some appreciation for that too. Because if we go back to the Rams game, the stat, I'll save it actually for next segment. I used it on sermons, and I think, quite frankly, it will remain this offseason the single biggest indictment of the offense in general, as good as it appeared at times during the season. So we'll save that. I've got some A-section material I want to get to as well. And Louis will join at 5:30 this evening. Plenty of Minnesota Wild stuff to get to. Ode to a Dead Guy to get to, as well as a hockey legend has passed away in the great state of Minnesota. About as big a name as you could possibly get on all levels. Player, coach, etc. So that'll be a big part of the discussion, maybe the most of the discussion, because he's obviously the Ikola legacy in the state of Minnesota when it comes to hockey is absolutely worth probably the entire Louis segment, quite frankly. I think we've nailed it regarding my question earlier, how occasionally in these bitterly cold temperature days, I have seen, for example, via AccuWeather, a real feel that is actually less obnoxious than the temperature. Usually it's the other way around in the basis of the wind, for example. But I've seen a number of times where, let's say the temperature is listed as -10, the real feel is listed as like -4. And I had never noticed that before. And I surmised, could it be the dryness in the air? The notion that when there's greater outdoor humidity, that the cold can be more biting. And a number of other people believe that's what it's related to. I think, and I've used this example before, and people, I don't think they necessarily believe me, but I will tell you that in general, I mean, look, -15 is -15.
It's cold.
Right? A lot of the schools were closed, I think, in the metro area today, period. And, I mean, that's bitter cold. But the drier the air is, I think, the less biting it might be. And that, to me, is always what when people say, when I say, well, there have been times living in Chicago back in the day or visiting that even though the temperature is not as low as that, it feels much, much colder. And people say, well, you're nuts. No, I'm not nuts, because often in the winter in the Chicago area, because of the big lake called Michigan, it's a damper cold, and so it gets into your bones a little bit. We've talked about, the wind in Chicago was affectionately referred to as the hawk. I think we tried to find, I don't know if we ever found, Lou Rawls, the great singer, used to have in his act like a whole monologue, having grown up in Chicago, about how he would define that when the wind and the cold would come together in a way that it would just sort of rattle your bones when you're going around a corner and you hit it and it just stops you. So I think that might be the answer to the mystery of how can you have -9 temperature but a real feel of -2. That's the closest I think we can get to. Is it's about as dry as it can get.
Yes,
I mean, they're calling it indoors dangerously dry. What does dangerously dry mean? Does that mean you might have like spontaneous combustion?
Yeah, your skin just starts cracking out of nowhere.
That's not good.
I did notice the other day, what was the company that gave us all that lotion? That sounded bad. It wasn't Carl Gerbschmidt related or Vern.
We got lotion?
No, but it was the Mando deodorant, and then there was a bunch of other stuff.
Yes. It was not. It was,
It's at my desk
Duke
right
Cannon.
now.
You talking about the Duke Cannon stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Duke Cannon.
I still use their aftershave balm. It's very bracing. I
still use whatever moisturizer they sent.
Okay,
it's
good.
at my desk, and I use it every day, and I needed it badly yesterday at home, and we weren't here really until 3:30 or so because of the Wild game and the Kevin Fulness post-game extravaganza.
Yeah.
But I'm just sitting there, and I'm just looking at my skin going, this is ridiculous. I'm not a man that generally moisturizes a whole lot.
I moisturize every day. You need to learn to moisturize.
I know I do. If you have the means.
Because
if you're fortunate enough to go. And I need the Duke Cannon.
You don't have to have the most expensive lotion, for God's sake.
But you got to do it right.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's what Lori always tells us, Lori Fisher.
When you reach my age, which is today is officially 70, you have to think about moisturizing.
Yeah. I'm trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah, you got to. And
I need to get ahead of it.
That's the point of it. You get ahead of it because you're a young pup, but you don't want to let it get out of hand.
I know.
Because I don't think you can make it up.
It's true.
I don't think you can ever, all of a sudden I'm going to start moisturizing.
No.
All those years of not moisturizing is going to catch up.
It takes a toll.
That's all I'm saying. It does, especially in a town like this.
I know. So I'm feeling dry.
It never seems to end. Zach from New Hope. My father grew up in Hibbing, Minnesota, born in 1944.
Was Kevin McHale?
He claims the coldest he ever felt was at Fort Benning, Georgia, after basic training, 40s and damp. Think about it.
The coldest I ever felt was the sidelines of the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
That's because you weren't properly dressed.
I wasn't.
I don't know where you think you were going. Did you think you were going to the Bahamas or what? It's not the Bahamas Bowl.
But what happened was you see 30s, and as a Minnesotan, you go, okay, 30s isn't bad, but you'd kind of forgotten that it hadn't been that cold here, and we'd been through some team. So I blew it. It was bad, but I was freezing. But that was Charlotte, and I felt wet there too.
Yeah, well, that's part of it too. That would make that'd be a big part of it. Let me get to a couple of other texts. Dan, football. Who cares? Vikings have been failures for 64 years. A National Football League record. They are irrelevant now and forever. Talk puck. Well, we're going to get puck talk with Louie coming up at 5:30. I don't really have a lot else to say right now about the Minnesota Wild or the Wolves. We haven't talked, close circuit to the paranoid hockey community. Have we talked to any Wolves today to this point?
We have not.
I don't think we have.
No, we have not.
Are you even going to include it in the top 5 at 5? Because we are going to have top 5 at 5, right?
Yeah, we are, but there's really nothing to include. They don't play until tomorrow. We talked about their game yesterday. It was during the day.
I think we got 2 national TV games. It's rivalry week, I think we got
Is that what they call it?
That's what they're calling it.
Yeah, you're right.
We're at Dallas for one of them, right?
Yes, and then Saturday, Denver's here.
That's here. And Denver, as you say, they've kind of figured some stuff out, it appears.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 2 o'clock Saturday.
715 guy, Dan, the running game for the Vikings is first and foremost, the offensive line and then the dynamic running back. The Vikings have Jefferson, and people think he won't get as many touches if they run the ball too much. However, Detroit has a dynamic player in St. Brown. He has got to be a top 5 receiver. He's a very tough and effective receiver as well. There's no question about that. Another example of personnel coinciding with philosophy is drafting a finesse and fast Dallas Turner instead of a thick and powerful Jared Verse. I meant to ask that of Seifert. So, because a couple people have said, stop doing that. We didn't need Verse because we could have taken him, and don't tell me about how one of them's 9 years older than the other. I already know all about that.
That's the immediate comeback.
Exactly. But some people are trying to claim is that Verse absolutely would not fit this defense. I'm not going to sit here and do the all 22 on that, but I'm just going to tell you, I'm old school and thinking, can he play?
Exactly. Players play.
We got to find a way to, maybe we tweak a little or we incorporate. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on. That guy's a dominant player already.
In the NFL, it's even dumber to say with draft picks. With free agents, I get it.
Yes,
because it's typically shorter term contracts, all of that. But with draft picks, guys you're theoretically going to build around or are going to be around for a while on cheaper contracts, which is what teams love. I mean, just think about the Vikings right now. There was a 50-50 chance Beeflo's the coach of the Jets right now. And who knows what scheme is coming in next year.
Correct.
So you just want good players.
That's what I thought.
And then figure out where they fit.
Later,
and the good coaches will figure it out. Especially in the NFL when you're either getting fired, the coaching staff's either getting fired or the good ones are moving on, especially the position coaches and the coordinators. Did you see, by the way, how Detroit is reacting to the news that your team, the Bears, poached Ben Johnson? They're getting a lot of static, as my dad would say, Detroit fans. Because
No.
they're all bitter with Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
There's tweets that are going,
How can they be bitter? What do you mean?
because they're not used to coordinators leaving Detroit
okay.
because they're always
All
so
right.
bad.
Okay.
They're not used to this, is the allegation, which is kind of funny.
Well, but what is the grievance?
That he's just not loyal. He should be loyal to Dan Campbell and stay with the Lions.
Come on, I don't believe that.
There's a lot of it floating around on the social medias.
So he's supposed to turn down a head coaching job at $13 million a year?
I think he is, yeah, to finish the job with Dan Campbell. That's what people are thinking.
I will say this. I saw his first, they were like every team now, you got the big video. He's walking into the main office. There's an atrium and there's fans or employees lined up. Yeah.
Yep.
And he says a few words about what we have to do.
Culture. It's about the players.
No place he wanted to be, LSU wanted to be.
My family.
The whole bit, the whole thing. And I looked at him and I said, oh man, he doesn't strike me as a Chicago guy. But then again, it's pretty simple. If he can turn this quarterback into what he was supposed to be, no one will care. Right? It's very simple.
Well, I'm sure you
He
noticed.
just doesn't seem like a Grabowski to me.
No, but I'm sure you noticed.
He's too cute. He's too finessey. His BMI is too good.
Well, that's what I was going to say. His BMI is
it's impeccable.
Exquisite.
Yeah.
Exquisite BMI.
I mean, there's not enough ruggedness to him. Chicago's it's a tough guy town.
I'll tell you, but all you have to do, go back and watch the first Lions game of the NFL season. Didn't they play the Rams opening night? I want to say.
Yeah, I think that is right.
Overtime?
Yeah.
And they ran the ball 13 straight times to finish the game in
That's
OT.
a great point.
His BMI looks just fine when he's handing it off like that.
That'll play well in the Windy City.
It will.
For sure. There's
So
no
he
question.
does not mind
the city of Walter Payton.
Yep.
Gale Sayers and so many more. I mean, I know it's unrealistic to want to hire an Abe Gibron. That's a ancient callback to a former Chicago Bears head coach who was not very good, but personified, tough guy town, offensive line coach.
He fit in with George Wendt.
Weighed about 3 bills, the whole bit. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing.
Having another heart attack.
Pretty close.
He fit in with those guys?
Very, very close. Speaking of the devil, I just got a text from Johnny. He just has landed in Dallas, Texas. He's continuing to track the Wolves on this road trip. He was kindly trying to wish me a happy birthday. And Chad Hartman, my former partner of Chad Barrero's Salad Day, Savvy Afternoon Abathon period of time, did the same. And I retweeted his tweet that includes 2 different photos. The first is when he and I worked together here at the Fan, and we posed for a Chad Barrero shot. I'm wearing the goofy two-tone ball cap with the words "no comment" on it. Get it? I'm an ink stain wretch.
Very
no
funny.
Comment.
I get it.
And he's Chad. There's no question about
Hawk-like
that.
features.
He's got the hawk-like features. I've got the porn mustache going.
Oh boy.
And those are the days. And I think the ad read Smart Sports, but then the word sports was kind of blotted out, and Alex was replacing it, as in Smart Alex. Get it? Those are the days at one of the other studios here at KFAN. And then the photo on the right is when he hung out with us after I entered the Minnesota Broadcasting Hall of Fame. He stopped by the house, and we took a nice picture there as well. I have no stash at that point.
No porn stash.
And no porn stash. And his hair he still hasn't lost it. He's Sid's son. I mean, he's never going to lose his hair.
No.
It's thinning a little, but it's also grayer.
Yeah.
Right? I will say that. I don't think he does the Ryan Day thing. I wonder if he's ever considered it.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think he's kind of is who he is.
Yeah, you might be right about that. It's very, very possible.
That was a fun night.
It was a fun night,
The
yeah.
Hall of Fame night. Good group of people.
Yeah, there's some interesting. I can't divulge too much right now, but interesting possibilities for the upcoming Hall of Fame class. Not the one Kessler was just a part of that got inducted, but the next one. Oh yeah, there's some stuff percolating.
Secret meetings, huh?
Yeah. Let's just say that, occasionally you get asked would you be interested in, writing something to help get this individual over the finish line?
Got it.
And I was honored to do it in this particular case, but I'll keep that to myself because I don't know where we are in the process. And they're very secretive about wanting to hold on to even, I think they decided pretty early in the year.
Yeah.
But then they want to embargo it until they have a big announcement. And then ultimately the induction ceremony as well. So
we stand by.
Yeah, we stand by because
we'll be waiting.
I think it'll be interesting. Louis will join us today at 5:30, and there's a lot to get to with Luigi this week. Did you say the Wild are back in action home tomorrow?
Yeah, no, they are back in action Thursday against Utah.
And then I think we got a 5-game road trip.
I think that's right.
I'm not mistaken. A lot to get to there. Oh, to a dead guy to get to with Luigi as well.
I think we have a couple more at home this weekend.
Oh, we do?
We hit the road
and then we hit the road.
weekend.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, you're right. That's exactly right. Wild fans saying the Vikings are irrelevant is pretty rich, given the Wild's long track record of deep postseason runs. Boy, this
is what we do.
That's Richard Pitino's snark right there.
Yeah, I know. That's what we
direct.
do. We start turning on each other. We're supposed to be one Minnesota. Well, and I know the hockey community starts it, but there's retaliation penalties in hockey. We don't need to jump back in.
Can we do a return to a subject we started the show with? We were celebrating the Golden Gopher dance team's remarkable national success again. They win the overall national championship, and they finish, because they got jobbed by the officials, we think, second in the jazz competition again. A couple people are claiming that their facilities aren't very good, that they're not state-of-the-art locally. Is that true? Can you confirm or deny that? You got all kinds of University of Minnesota sources.
I don't know where they practice. I could find out where they practice. The video
I don't know how accurate this individual is, but he's claiming that, no, you'd be surprised. They really have to, they actually practice in places that aren't specifically designed for dance.
That would make sense.
Seems astonishing to me.
Yeah, well, but where do you have that? I mean, do you have...
Create it!
Do most places have a straight-up dance studio?
Create it!
They probably deserve it.
Well, yes. All they do is win.
What I was watching, the video of them practicing was in, like I said, one of the basketball practice gyms at Athletes Village, which are very nice, but maybe maybe not exactly what the dance team needs. But maybe they take a perverse pride in just getting it done, finding a way.
Well, that you can use it that way. You absolutely can use it as a motivating tool. Okay, fine.
Doesn't matter where we practice.
We're still going to win.
We'll get it figured out.
I bet you they'd still rather have state-of-the-art facility. But maybe they'd go soft then. I don't know. That's the age-old question, right?
That was the allegation, within the last 10, 15 years. A lot of coaches would throw their teams out of their nice practice facilities or their nice locker rooms after they would get built. You guys haven't earned this. We're dressing in the hall.
I forgot about that. Yes,
people would do that all the time.
Motivational factor.
Tim Miles, we're too soft. Dress outside the parking lot and come in. Not going in your locker room. I don't know if it works or not, but they like to use that.
Zach suggests that you should be the voice of the University of Minnesota dance. Now, I don't play-by-play. I don't think there is such thing as radio play-by-play of the dance competition. There is. I mean, it's broadcast somewhere.
Yeah. There's announcers.
On TV, so there's announcers. How much do they just let it play out because people are watching it? I'm not sure, but I'm assuming you got like a broadcaster and then an analyst.
Yes.
Who says, whoa, I have never seen that before.
I'd be leaning heavily on the analyst.
That's okay.
In that regard.
Yeah, because I think the play-by-play, even for TV purposes, would be challenging. Right?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
But I think...
Because you have to know a little bit about the moves, right? And the technique and so forth.
But that's where the analyst, I think, has to just come in. I don't think you do a lot of talking while they're dancing. I think you stay out of the way, let the music speak, let the dancers do what they do.
I see.
And then maybe you come in with replay after.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it enough to know how they handle that.
Yeah, it's a good... I'm trying to think, because I've watched some of those competitions, and I don't have much recollection about how often... they are speaking during the routine, or whether they just say, we're just going to let, just watch. There's music accompanying it, and then we'll talk afterwards what it's like. I don't know.
The only thing I could think of would be that they handle it kind of like gymnastics, where the play-by-play guy sets up the routine, and then the John Roethlisberger will say, big combination coming up here.
Could be.
Nailed it. She's going to feel good about that. That's how they do it. They kind of tell you the moves that are coming.
That could be.
Same with figure skating.
That would make sense. Don't you just need a floor to dance? Well, Yeah, but I'm assuming some floors are better made for the purposes of dance than others.
You
correct?
know that well enough.
I know that
in your dance community world.
Incredibly well, because at a lot of these competitions we go to around the country, they're not up to snuff, and it doesn't even. They got to like suspend stuff. We got to move some stuff. We got to retape some boards. It's complicated and challenging. And you'd like to think in the case of the University of Minnesota, they'd have the best possible facility. I think you need to talk to Coyle about this.
I bet he'll be there tomorrow night.
I think you got to ask a couple questions about it.
See what's going on.
Did Coyle go? I think, was it Orlando again? I think it was Orlando.
It usually
I think it's always
is.
Orlando.
Yeah,
Because like you said, when Flip used to call in, it was from Orlando, correct?
Yeah. That was great when he
was Coyle there?
I don't know.
He should be. I mean, he should give it the proper respect. He should be there to show how important it is, or it should be important to the University of Minnesota.
I'm sure there was at least somebody from the administration there if it wasn't Mark Coyle.
That sounds like a cop-out. Top 5?
Oh, we're doing it tonight. I forgot totally.
Yeah. You got nothing. You got something.
I've got something.
Okay.
We've got KOC.
Right.
We've got Ohio State. And I had one other thing that I wanted to get to, and now I did forget. Oh, big ball game in Iowa City tonight. So I wanted to start with that. Big ball game in Iowa City, KOC, and the Ohio State does it for the Big Ten.